stories and folktales. See you in my next video. Bye bye. In a lively market where people wore colorful clothes and sold all sorts of things, there was one special store that everyone talked about. It was Kelechi's wig store. Kelechi was a charming man who always smiled, and his wigs were the talk of the town. The young girls and women in that town were enchanted by Kelechi's wigs. They will fight and argue just to buy one. I need to look my best, but I can't look my best without Kelechi's wigs, some of them will say to themselves. The competition to buy Kelechi's wigs grew fierce. Women saved all their money and even borrowed just to afford one. These wigs will make me feel like a queen, they will say. The market was always bustling with excitement around Kelechi's store. They will fight and argue just to be able to afford one of Kelechi's wigs, and this made Kelechi very excited. But do you know the intriguing thing about Kelechi's wigs? The wigs were cost. People didn't know the wigs were cost. They just saw how beautiful they were, and they would always fight and rush to buy it. Any woman who buys any wig from Kelechi's store always have one thing or the other happening negative in their life. But they never understood what was going on, and they never suspected that their problem was coming from Kelechi's wig. A young woman named Adolisa, who recently got married, was so excited because she had just discovered that she is pregnant. On breaking the news to her husband asked her, "My dear wife, in celebration for our unborn child, what do you want me to buy for you?" And Adolisa responded to her husband, "My husband, I want one of Kelechi's wigs. I've been dreaming of wearing one of Kelechi's wigs. And please, I wouldn't mind if you buy me a wig from Kelechi's store." And the husband gave Adolisa money to buy Kelechi's wig just to congratulate themselves for having a child on the way. The next day, Adolisa visited Kelechi at his store. "Kelechi, I want to buy this wig. I've been dreaming about buying a wig from you. I mean, you are the talk of the town. Which woman wouldn't want to buy a wig from you? Please, give me one of your wig. How much is it? My husband already gave me money and I want to buy now." And Kelechi said, "No problem." And he gave the wig to Adolisa. When Adolisa got home, she was so excited about finally purchasing a wig from Kelechi's store. At least, when other women are talking in town about Kelechi's wigs, she will also be able to talk. Immediately, Adolisa wore the wig on her head. Few hours later, Adolisa had a miscarriage. She lost the pregnancy. They didn't know where the problem was coming from, and they never suspected that it was the wig Adolisa bought from Kelechi's store that caused the miscarriage. Next time, Adolisa became pregnant again. And anytime she puts on that wig, there is always miscarriage. Adolisa still didn't know what was going on, and this continued to happen in her marriage. Anytime Adolisa wears that wig, she is always having one problem or the other in her marriage. Another beautiful young lady called Abike recently got engaged to the love of her life. And so she was so excited and decided to celebrate her engagement and upcoming wedding by buying a wig from Kelechi's store. She said to herself, "I need to buy one wig from Kelechi's store because I must use Kelechi's wig for my wedding. I mean, I've told my hairstylist that I am coming with Kelechi's wig and I must wear it." Abike visited Kelechi's store and purchased a wig from Kelechi with the intention of using it as a wig for her wedding. On the very day of Abike's wedding, immediately she wore that wig she bought from Kelechi. Her husband-to-be, the groom, cancelled the wedding, turned everything upside down and said he was no longer interested in marrying Abike. Everyone was confused. Abike herself was confused. She wondered what her offense was. How can my groom all of a sudden decide not to marry me again? What have I done? Abike did not know that it was the wig she bought from Kelechi's store that she wore on her head that caused the whole chaos on her wedding day. And that was how Abike's wedding got cancelled. While the women wore the wigs they bought from Kelechi's store, strange things started happening in their lives. And they never suspected for one day that it was the wig that was causing all of this problem. A singer called Nneka, who was known for her beautiful and melodious voice, lost her voice immediately she wore the wig. Ifeoma, who is also a talented dancer, hurt her leg mysteriously. Their fortunes seemed to vanish, and they couldn't understand why. Then the market was filled with whispers and worries. In that same market, there lived a wise and smart girl called Adanna. Adanna's mother owned a store selling groceries in that market. She was a very smart and observant girl, and she noticed the changes that some of the women who also bought wig from Kelechi's store in that market always had. She saw how the women who wore the wig seemed to lose their talents and luck in the markets. And she said to her mother, "Mama, have you seen what's happening to the women with Kelechi's wigs? Imagine that auntie that sells clothes down the road. The last time she has been complaining of bad luck in her business. And I noticed that it was immediately she bought wig from Kelechi's store that all of this happened. Okay, what about Auntie Adanaya? Auntie Adanaya's business started falling apart and her husband chased her out of her house. And I also observed that it was immediately after she bought wig from Kelechi's store. I don't think Kelechi's business is pure, Mama." And then her mother answered, "My daughter, I think you are right. But we have to be very careful. Because even me, I know something is not right with that Kelechi of a boy." Adanna decided to investigate. She spoke to the women affected in the markets. Some of them said, "My business used to flourish, but ever since I started wearing that wig, it is no longer moving well." Then, some of the girls were also in the market, and they said, "I used to be a good singer, but now I can't." Another said, "I used to be the best dancer, but now I can't even walk properly." Then, coincidentally, Adolisa came to the market to buy foodstuff. Upon hearing Adanna and the other people's conversation, she also said, "No wonder. Anytime I put on that wig, I'm always having a miscarriage." Adanna listened carefully to how the women lamented, piecing together the puzzle. My dear viewers, I'm sure you are also wondering what exactly and how Kelechi started selling evil wigs. Well, Kelechi wasn't always a wig seller. He used to be a humble trader selling ordinary goods. One day, he met an old mysterious man named Baba Zuberu, who promised him great wealth if he followed his advice. Baba Zuberu taught Kelechi how to make wigs using dark magic. The wigs will look beautiful, but will bring bad luck to those who wore them. And in turn, Kelechi's business and wealth will begin to bloom. Kelechi, blinded by greed, agreed to the plan. Kelechi crafted his first cost wig and sold it to a rich woman. Soon after, the woman fell ill, but Kelechi's business boomed. People didn't know the wigs were costs. They just saw how beautiful they were. Now you know how Kelechi started this evil wig business. Let's go to how Adanna was able to bring Kelechi down. Keep watching this video. Adanna knew she had to act, but she needed a plan. She gathered her friends and shared her findings. "We need to catch Kelechi in the act. We must show everyone the truth," Adanna said. Her friends agreed to help, determined to stop the evil. One night, Adanna and her friends followed Kelechi to his secret workshop. They hid behind a bush and watched how he chanted strange words. And this made the wigs glow with lights. Adanna's heart raced. They had the proof they needed. The next morning, Adanna and her friends confronted Kelechi in the market. "Kelechi, your wigs are cursed. You use dark magic to harm our people," Adanna shouted. The crowd gathered, murmuring in shock. Kelechi tried to deny the accusations. "These are lies. My wigs are simply beautiful. Nothing more," he claimed. But Adana and her friends were prepared. They showed everyone a cursed wig they had taken from his workshop. The market fell silent as people looked at Kelechi in shock. "Is this true?" someone shouted. Kelechi's face turned red with anger, but he couldn't hide the truth. The people were angry and demanded answers. Just when everyone thought Kelechi would be caught, Kelechi tried to run away. But Adana had a clever idea. She grabbed one of his wigs and threw it at him. The wig glowed and wrapped around Kelechi, making him stumble and fall. The people gasped as they saw the wig's magic backfire on Kelechi. Adana stood tall, showing no fear. "We must stop him from hurting anyone else," she said. The people cheered and praised Adana for her bravery. They decided to take Kelechi to the village elders for judgment. Under pressure from the crowd, Kelechi confessed his deeds. He told them about Baba Zuberu and the dark magic. The villagers were horrified and saddened by his greed. The village elders listened to Kelechi's confession. They decided that Kelechi must undo the magic he had cast and leave the town forever. Kelechi begged for mercy, but the elders were firm. Kelechi, under the watchful eyes of the villagers, performed a ritual to remove the curses from the wigs. The glowing wigs turned back to normal and the people felt a sense of relief. With Kelechi gone, peace returned to the town. The villagers thanked Adana for her courage and wisdom. The market was once again a place of joy and prosperity. Adana became a hero and everyone learned the importance of honesty and kindness. Adolisa became pregnant and gave birth to as many children as she wanted, including every other woman who had a challenge from Kelechi's wigs. All their misfortunes were restored back to them. And that was how the story of Kelechi, the evil wig seller, ended. The moral of this story is very simple. All that glitters is not gold. And then stop following trend, because not everything that trends is actually good. And then stop feeling you want to be among, because you don't even know the evil involved in being among. So thank you so much for watching this story. I hope you learned a thing or two and I hope you were entertained. My name is Onyi of Onyi Stories and Folktales, and please, I'm begging you, please, if you haven't subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button, turn on the notifications so when I post more interesting stories, you'll get to see them. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.